herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Greetings. You made the trip to Eugene Cannabis TV. We're sitting here on a Monday night. You could be here too. Come on down to the ectv.427.020812 studios and just watch or join in. I got my good friend Reverend Will here tonight, and you got DanK here as the host of the Eugene Cannabis TV. We're doing this since 2004, and we just keep continuing like we don't know any better. I wanted to devote most of the show tonight to Danbo. Danbo is an associate of mine, a friend of mine, and I consider to be one of the bravest men I've ever met. His old name is Daniel Carl Ernst, and he is a true believer in freedom and cannabis to the point where he's actually living it. And I say living it, I mean he goes up against the courts and the cops and the whole bit. And he's coming up on February 10th. He's going to be in federal court. He's facing 30 years, and it's very scary, but he's facing it like all the others very bravely, and he likes to have some court support there, so we're trying to get people to come. But I wanted to talk a bit more about what he's done and some of the things in the past so that you understand where he's coming from. I went through on the internet, and I had very little myself, I was embarrassed to say. I did have a letter to the editor that he wrote that I've kept for a long time. It was very good, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I did run across a couple of older news stories on one of his legal problems. He's always involved in cannabis, but this one was dated June 2001, a marijuana bust called A Blow to Medical Access. It says the self-appointed patriarch of a storefront church held a news conference Monday to protest his arrest and the confiscation of close to 19 pounds of marijuana and $10,000 in cash. Eugene police arrested Daniel Carl Ernst on Thursday at his Alameda Street office after hearing from neighbors that people were walking in and buying marijuana. It's just 2 undercover officers observed a dozen people go in and out of the address there. Police obtained a search warrant, and they found 3.5 pounds of dried marijuana, 10 growing plants, and $8,000 in cash. They later searched Ernst's home and found an additional 14 pounds of dried marijuana and $2,000 in small amounts of cocaine and hashish. And so it was a terrible setback for medical patients. However, this was only one of his legal escapades, and in this particular case, I can't remember how it actually resolved, but he was facing 3 felony counts on what we call the cookie caper. You remember the cookie incident? Where he and our friend Mike was just on the show here a few weeks ago, Mike Kozad, and another friend were in a small kitchen next to the Scobert Park over in Eugene or Whitaker, and they were making brownies for the country fair coming up. And 2 officers walking through the park said they smelled cannabis, and the smell was cannabis, and investigated, followed their noses, and knocked on the door. And I've heard the story twice, and I do tell clear. One of them, I understand, opened the door with a bong in his hand. But anyway, they had a dish out with a big bowl of marijuana. Anyway, they busted him for manufacturing and blah blah blah. But the bottom line was he came out of that with probation. I mean, you know, I mean that was after it's a long story, but he refused to participate. Sat through the whole trial. Never participated in the trial. They acquitted him of 1 charge, convicted him of 2. He appealed 1, and then let's see what plea bargained it down to probation. I mean, it's amazing how he really comes out pretty well in the end. I mean, all things considered. But anyway, that was just one of the incidents. And then there was another. This was on June 19th, 2001. On June 28th, there was a demonstration. 20 demonstrators gathered at the county courthouse calling for police to release the supply of medicine seized 2 weeks ago. But Eugene authorities said no chance. In fact, the marijuana was turned over to state police and probably already has been destroyed, said police spokesman, blah, blah, blah. Destroyed it.
Yeah, see, that's one of the biggest problems we have at this point in time. And I did try and talk to the police chief before about this, and Officer Kearns, or Police Chief Kearns, as he's known now, is somebody that knows my stance on this as far as whether or not he's heard it before. Hopefully if he hasn't, he hears it now. Why do you burn a medicine that could be used to help people when the people of this state, through law, have demanded that people be taken care of with marijuana, not burned marijuana that just goes away? I mean, understand, we have told you that we would take care of this, but the federal government tells you that you can't get involved with this, otherwise it's like you're involved in the drug trafficking. Well, understand, the federal government lies about so much, I don't know how they keep their lies straight. It must be what they spend most of their time on. But for me, their lies have led them with no credibility. And therefore, when they come in here and tell you that you don't have a right to take care of your people as dictated or mandated by the people of this state, which was to take care of the people who have medical issues with medical marijuana and make sure there aren't abuses going on. There's nothing in there that says you must destroy the medicine once it's been obtained from someone who is doing illegal things with it. And we're not asking you to put a burden on you by using your crime labs, even though you use your crime labs other ways to try and convict us. You won't use those same crime labs to go in there and just find out what medicine's in there and whether or not there's any pesticides and stuff, because we wouldn't want to use things that are damaging to people. So we will take that on to put it in the labs and make sure that there's nothing in there that would be detrimental to people's health. And then we could get it to people who have things like, oh, let's say everyone who has to wait 3 months at least in order to be able to get their first medicine, which, like we've talked about before, if you are getting some kind of life-saving medicine in that moment and it takes you 3 months to get it, you would be dead. So for us, you have no idea of how many things that this medicine helps us with. Therefore, because you haven't done the research in a positive way to find out what benefits would come from using marijuana. So we tell you it helps us, you don't believe us. Well, understand, we don't really care whether or not you believe us, but when you punish us because you don't believe us, then it's getting a little harsh. So understand, in this process, all we're doing is saying, Danbo has established some of the things that we have used now by, like you used to make food. You used to make food with cannabis, and it was awesome. Now we're using it as a medicine, so for those people who can't smoke it or vaporize, that they have the ability to use it medicinally by eating it. These are things that you don't even address other than to say that we can't do it, not knowing how beneficial it's been for so many people. We don't understand this. So as we don't understand you putting Danbo in jail. I mean, he's done nothing but be like myself, a minister who has asked for the right to use our medicine spiritually as sacrament. And why the federal government and local governments feel they have a right to have input in this in any way, shape, or form is mind-boggling, because you don't have a right to judge this one way or the other when it talks about the spiritual aspects.
The letter to the editor he wrote in November 2004 pretty well sums it up. There's some Italian in here, then I don't speak Italian, so I might butcher this, but you'll get the gist of where he's coming from. He wrote, If a light is to shine, it must come from within. The beginning to the end of the goal or solution is to remember who we are. We, the people, are sovereign, and our allegiance should be to the Almighty Creator who created all and gave us the freedom to mess it all up. The nanny state, legislative, executive, and judicial, that plunders we, the people, with laws that trespass on the boundary of liberty, harm no one, damage no property, pay what you owe, is tyranny and creates havoc on the good mother. A return to value as a must if sanity, compassion, and love are to reign. Cannabis, Morocco, family prohibition or marijuana laws are null and void ab initio for we the people that understand true value and our place here and now. Here and now. Yes, I know that they have guns and jails, but that is false evidence appearing real, and the caps to that is FEAR, fear, which is cute. And many of you want to avoid the assault and assume that we must work with the legislature or an initiative to change the null and void law. But the undisputed truth is that when this body returns to compost for the earth, the guns and jails will be left behind as the spirit moves on to its next external journey. I support each and every adult to grow and to distribute, share, or at a fair value, and or consume the noble herb as a basic, unalienable right here and now. Please eat your hemp food and meditate on the truth and be strong to stand for the truth on this solution to gain our basic needs without spinning our wheels to hell. Please feel free to contact me if you need help in implementing this plan for drug reform. Much love to all. Danbo.
You know, something that's interesting about that was when the Native Americans got their right to use peyote, and the two brothers, I believe it was Galen Smith and Al Black, that were there, they had all these churches that came together over at the Federal Building, and they all honored them for the good fight in getting peyote as medicine and spiritual medicine within their church. Now, with all these people going in front of the camera, all these different churches doing this, I stood in the background and went up to these two brothers afterwards and said, because I respected them and did not and have reverence for what they're doing, I did not want to bring chaos into this celebration, which was to say thanks for being able to create peyote as a church, as a sacrament within their church. The Native American church, which is the church upon which the Church of the Caring has a lot of its tenets from. So in doing that, I'm just saying that the kind of respect that we have is one that we don't want to bring chaos into the world or anything else, but when I'm told by police officers that if they made marijuana legal as sacrament in a church, the next step is that we would be killing children as a sacrifice. That's the kind of insanity that causes us, as people who are very caring and doing all that we can to make this difference by bringing this kind of information forth and saying, you know, no more discrimination. Come on, no more untruths from the federal government and from others who have all these vested interests and they're being supported by lobbyists to keep marijuana illegal. I mean, the clearest insanity is the industrial aspect at this point in time, which here in this state we have a right to have, but we can't grow it because we have to have a tax stamp in order to create a sample, but you have to have the sample before you can get the tax stamp. Now, if anybody ever saw Catch-22 and understands the phrase, there it is being implemented by the United States government in order to keep us impotent with a product that we should be allowed to utilize to benefit all of mankind.
One last letter to the editor, dated August 2011, from Danbo. In response to U.S. Attorney Dwight Holden's assertion that marijuana clubs are undemocratic, pot club or pot business was the name of the original letter, August 19th, someone should tell him that his threats to private cannabis business is un-Republican. We accept his oath to support the Constitution, which in part says the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a Republican form of government, the type of system we had before the Civil War. Our current democratic type of fascism protects pharmaceutical corporations selling toxin medicines to people for profit. But we are supposed to believe that people cannot take money the old-fashioned way, producing a valuable non-toxic herb. And of course, it's okay for the state of Oregon to continue to profit from the pot venture by doubling the fee for participating in the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program from $100 to $200. Let the revolution begin so we can throw off the tyrants who want to dictate to the people through democratic legislation. Elect Ron Paul for president, Daniel Calderos, Oak Ridge. So that's Friday, February 10th at 10 a.m. at the federal courthouse. Where please come and actually,
the new federal courthouse.
Thank you. Yes, the new federal courthouse. The new silver tin box. It is so ugly. That thing is so ugly. I hadn't seen it until I went to one of his hearings, and you know, it's interesting. I'm an architectural draftsman, and so I understand a little bit about architectural design, and there's a lot of factors actually people focusing on psychological designing of buildings.
Right.
And you know that when you walk up to that place, the main floor is on the second floor. Now that doesn't make any sense. If it was on a hill, yeah, but no, it's all flat ground. But the main floor is the second floor, so you got to go up these, 40 steps or whatever it is. So you're already intimidated by going up these exalted steps. You get up on top, and here's the handicap ramp running off the left. It looks like something that Evel Knievel to jump over the Snake River. But anyway, February 10th, 10 a.m., please be there and support Danbo. This is a true warrior, and every hearing is an education and experience, I guarantee you.
There you go. Be
thanks
there,
for coming, Rev.
Yeah.
Will. Appreciate it.
All right, we will definitely see you there.
Next, I'm going to bring up Danbo. Everybody, a lot of people know Danbo. Dan on the Lam. Used to be Dan on the Lam. Dan's been talking about POWs. Dan is what the Eugene police in their notes referred to, this is one of my favorite stories, they referred to him as a constitutionalist. Now, I'm talking about a subversive, huh? Danbo, Danner. Thank you very much, Dan. It's actually really great to be here. I can't remember what year it was, but they arrested me the morning we were going to have this great event at Wayne Morse. We had Abacadoobie playing and rocking the house. So actually the good news is pot is legal. Pot is legal. I try to convince Dan Cruiser of that, but he won't believe me. The bad news is they've got the guns, and that's why it seems illegal. We've got this book here. It's called The Law. Probably hardly anybody knows what the law is. But the law is no one should plunder another. We're not just Clay and these other people called legislatures and them are the great potter that will form us into something that they think's good for mankind. No, we were given God-given rights. We were given Creator-given rights to be who we are, as long as we don't hurt anyone else or damage their property. And that's what the law is. And that's the only purpose government should be around. So I've got a few of these copies here. They're free to give out because we're trying to educate people that no more. See, when we have a law that just says you can't do this or you can't do that without you having harmed anyone or property, they have no standing. And what that is words on paper. What's words on paper? Dictation. So now we're living under dictatorship. BS. So it's really kind of a spiritual crisis. We've got to stand up. We have to muster the guts and the heart and the passion and the faith to go forward. And it's really an educating. And with the system crumbling down all around us, this is an opportunity to move forward for liberty and freedom and justice for all. And I'd like to end with this poem I wrote many years ago. I think it was like 4/20/1993. And it's still pertinent today and is my heartfelt feelings. A plant from the planet Earth. What happened to the chain of command? Who said cannabis is prohibited from growing on the land? Why do some fear the THC? It certainly is good medicine and sacrament for me. And when the seed is ripened round, it is nutritious food from the ground. Nowhere else can a plant be found that has more uses than our own fucking fascist government's abuses. Almighty Creator, I do pray that plenty of your children plant cannabis hemp in honor of your ways. Remembering who we really answer to. And please continue to protect us from the fool.
Question for you, Senator. You know, you said that.
Very good job. We'll pray for you.
That's on our side.
You said that, I'm just a citizen journalist, sir. Just curious. You said that we have the right to choose our own doctors, and I very much agree with you. I agree with your opposition to Obamacare. I'm just curious, why then do you not allow, if you say that people should be able to choose their doctors and their medicine, why is it that you are against cancer patients having access to cannabis to serve their condition?
Well,
especially you mentioned especially under the Constitution, the Ninth Amendment. But under the Ninth Amendment, sir, doesn't it say that we have rights not particularly given to the government?
The government has a right to outlaw certain drugs if they're
even under the Ninth Amendment.
Yeah, if they're dangerous, sure, of course they do.
I'm looking forward to calling.
Let him shake hands now. Like 100 people want to shake hands. Okay, thanks.
Do you suffer from fear of losing your election? Are you terrified that voters will discover you've done nothing to improve their lives? Maybe it's time you talk to your spin doctor about Incarcerex. In clinical trials, Incarcerex has been shown effective at reducing election-related anxieties by making voters think you're doing something about the drug problem. It's simplistic and fast-acting. If your problems continue or get worse, you can always double or triple your dose of Incarcerex. Whether it's addiction, therapeutic use, or just casual use, there's an Incarcerex plan for every American. Best of all, taxpayers, not you, will foot the bill. So talk to your spin doctor about Incarcerex today. Common side effects include loss of civil liberties, police corruption, racial injustice, increased terrorism, spread of HIV and AIDS, and violent crime. Bloated prisons are also a common side effect. Stop taking Incarcerex if bloating lasts longer than 20 years. If you're trying to balance the budget, keep families together, or protect human rights, Incarcerex may not be right for you. Do not mix Incarcerex with the Constitution or common sense. So start taking Incarcerex and keep pretending you're doing something about the drug problem.
Well, we have another M Research segment. We've got Troy here, and this time we were going to talk about the MX applications.
Thanks. MX applications is at the end of all the science, after the end of me burning up all the oxygen in the room and trying to explain stuff. We want to get down to what can a cultivator basically use to create the best medicinal or best plants that they can make. Okay, least amount of cost, without trade-off. Okay, so we don't want to trade off quality for quantity, because you don't have to. It's pretty easy to see that indoor growing does not yield the same as outdoor. I mean, just, you know, barring plants being able to handle outdoor and indoor, but let's just say
so many variables. It's just...
Absolutely. So we could basically say that an indoor plant is not realizing its potential, because typically, if it could handle the outside environment, it would probably yield more outdoor, right? Okay. The quality and the control indoor is nice, but the plant itself is not achieving what it could. One of the reasons why it doesn't achieve what it can is because it's got more microbiological helpers, more airflow, and better light outdoors. Okay, so the light comes down, and that is the energy source that's going to drive this motor. It's the fuel that's going to convert whatever it needs to do and take the plant where it's going to go. The tools that the plant has to use are nutrients, are so micronutrients, macronutrients, and then the microbiologicals that hang around, as well as some of the other atomic elements that basically assist the plant, okay, create its backbone, create the medicine, and help it be healthy. So MX applications is the understanding that you need nutrients, both macro and micro. You need or you should be utilizing the synergistic food webs with the microbiologicals, bacteria, protozoa, and the like, that basically instead of just you and your plant, you can have 68 trillion of your closest bacteria friends working with your plant to help convert, to help utilize soil, to help utilize the nutrients and convert it so it's usable for the plant. And then understanding how do we put this all together in at the end of the chalkboard, whiteboard explanation, how as a cultivator with dirt on their hands are they going to actually be able to achieve what we kind of talk about. So MX Applications takes the ideas that are established in the MX analytical ideas and convert them into soil applications or water applications that somebody can use.
Wow. That's incredible. Talk about science. That's what it's all.
Well, we're making medicine. We're making medicine.
Definitely.
And typically, it's kind of it's making some adjustments that people who are already doing it are usually already doing it pretty darn right. All we do is we just come in and help explain some ideas they usually got in the back of their head, and then watch what that magic happen. Because all that knowledge and all that expertise, teamed with science, results in a win for patients.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Well, I know I've, for instance, I've seen the aerophonic thing. Aerophonic. Man, it's incredible, the production that you can get with that.
Sometimes you have people who are talking about aeroponic versus hydroponic versus soil, and that one's better or whatever. And the answer truly is no. What you put into your plant is what's most beneficial. And you could put chemicals into the soil just like you could put chemicals into hydroponic or aeroponic. So one of the things we want to do is bring those things together, right? And so if you want to choose to do aeroponics, I learned this lesson firsthand with a fellow that designed his grow systems for his patients who were in wheelchairs. Because the pride that they took, they were in a wheelchair growing better medicine than I could with my two strong legs. Right. The amount of pride that they had in it and the service they were providing, but they couldn't lift. So for them, aeroponics was the best because there's nothing to lift, right? I mean, for the most part, outside the reservoir. But the point being is that they then could do natural medicine just like somebody who had soil.
That's interesting. Yeah, wow, I never thought about it, but that would be a lot easier for somebody that's in a impaired way there, because once it's set up, yeah, that's incredible. Well, anyway, we appreciate it. The information, again, it just keeps rolling out, and that's what this show's all about. So thanks for coming to Eugene Cannabis TV, and we appreciate the M Research helping us out again. So thanks a lot.